All right, we're going to go ahead and look at section 6.5. This is going to be the last section I want to do, but we're going to break it into two parts. The easier fractions, where we do not have to factor them. Tomorrow we'll work on factoring the denominator as well. So for today, we're going to start with the simpler ones and then make it one step further past that. But let's say we have one like this where we have two fractions. They both already have the same denominator. So what we're going to do, since they have the same denominator, we are just going to add the numerators. So 3c's and 5c's gives us 8c's over 16. Then now we need to reduce. What could we divide top and bottom by? 8. So it goes in once, goes in twice, c over 2. So some of these today are going to be that basic. And that's all right. So now let's start with a common denominator, but throw in the more involved expressions on the top. So we still have a common denominator. So now on the top, basically we need to take this problem. 5x plus 4 minus 3x minus 8. Since we have minus, basically we need to change both of the last two signs. So we have minus 3x and we have plus 8. So we're going to combine like terms. 5x minus 3x, what does that give us? 2x. 4 plus 8 is 12. Now it's all over 10. Once we get to that point, we do need to look at, is there anything on the top we could do to factor it or reduce it down? What's common in both of those? 2. So if we took out a 2, we'd be left with x plus 6. Now we look at, we could reduce the top and the bottom by 2. The 2 divided by 2 is 1. 10 divided by 2 is 5. So what we're left with is x plus 6 over 5. Okay. So a lot of these we can either reduce at the beginning, which these we could not do that, or we can reduce at the end. This was a case of we could reduce at the end. Sometimes you might be able to do both. Sometimes you'll be able to do neither. All right. So all right, basic y. Again, go back. If we have a binomial, let's put it in parentheses. Putting it in parentheses tells us that's one factor. So if we have, on both these, we have that same factor. So our common denominator is going to be x plus 4. Now on the top, what will we be left with? What is 3 plus 1? It's 4. Part of why I put it in parentheses, when we don't have parentheses, people want to immediately cancel off those 4. But since that is one factor, is this factor the same as that factor? No. So we stop right there. So again, when you have a factor, especially on the denominator, put it in parentheses so you know it is one factor, so it's not two separate terms. All right, so we're going to have one similar to that. But this time we're going to do that problem where we switch the order. So we have x minus 3 and we have 3 minus x. These are basically the same thing, but how could we make them the same? Does anybody remember? What do we do to this one? We flip it, but when we flip it, we also have to make it negative. So if we rewrite that, we're going to replace that positive with this minus. So anytime they are the same numbers but in opposite order subtract, you can flip it but make it a negative, because basically what is negative 1? If we put that in there, it'd be negative x plus 3, which is 3 minus x. So that's why we took that negative outside. We factored out a negative. These two are now the same. So all we're left with on the top is 2 minus 7, which is negative 5. Let's see something real quick. Okay, a couple where we need to get a common denominator. Tomorrow, again, like I said, they'll be a little bit more involved and more difficult. today it's getting the feel of how to work these. All right. So we have a, that's an A, not a 9. A over 4 minus 5 plus 12A over 18, excuse me. So we have 4 and we have 18. What would our common denominator be?
2. No.
Common denominator is going to get bigger. The common factor would be 2. But what's 18 times 2? Anybody? 36. So it's 36. We have to multiply this by 9 and then this times 2. So 9 times A is 9A. I'm going to put this 2 right here. The reason being is then we can multiply or distribute in -2. So -10, -24A. All right, so we have 36 on the bottom. -24 and +9, opposite sign, so we need to subtract, which is -15A minus 10. Anything common in those top 2? Let's go with -5 too. Really, it won't matter, but so we have -5, we have 3A plus 2 over 36. Can we simplify it all? No, but I would leave it that way. Part of why you make sure you factor out is because often you will be able to simplify. So this would be our final answer. These two aren't really any different, but this tells us exactly if we are done or not. We can see if there's one last one I want to try. Let's do one more. All right, this one, we've got variables in our denominator. These are pretty similar. What is this one missing that this one has? Squared. So what would we need to multiply this by to get squared? B. So if we were to make them both A, B squared, we would times by B. So 8 times B is 8B. That one's -6. So 8B minus 6. Again, we could then factor out a 2 over B minus 3. Either of these would be perfectly acceptable. Again, the reason to factor that out is just in case there is something down here you can factor, and it kind of tells us for sure if we can simplify. All right, so what are you going to do for me today? So the denominators work real bad today. Tomorrow they're going to get more difficult. But for today, 1 to 25 odd on 267. 1 to 25 odd 267.